Okay, today we are going to continue our development for our application. This application is supposed to allow us go to different paths and routes in our application and have a simple navigation for that. So mainly we will be talking about navigation using Jetpack Compose today. I have already created a very simple navigation. I'm going to show the important parts. Before that, I apologize for any noise that is recorded in this video. There's nothing I can do about it currently. You can see that I have created a nav host controller object. I have named it navigator, and this navigator will be used as the principle of data from up and state from event from below. You know, something called unidirectional data flow. Yeah, we are moving data, which includes navigator here, from the top part to the bottom components and composables. So first of all, we create a nav host controller with composable function remember nav controller, and then we pass it to our main composable that is supposed to be the root of our navigation. Home screen, I have named it home screen. In turn, that home screen receives that navigation and nav controller and starts a nav host. So a navigation requires a nav host, which in turn specifies and shows which route will be the home route or the start destination. So I have created a start destination of home, and I have specified it as the default or start destination. And the way you create routes in Compose, Jetpack Compose, actually is very easy, and I couldn't believe this would be that easy. You only call this composable, which creates a route for you, and you specify the name of the route, which is home for the default route, and then in the body of it you specify the content of that composable, the content of that route. The content will be our home or the default display, the default UI that we are supposed to show to the user. And then we add other composables like this. We add other route. We name it, for example, new item. This will take us to another route to add some new items. For our cost, for example, to add a new cost and its value, and that composable is satisfied using new item composable that does that for us. You can see. So back to this. If we run this application, it's going to work. The problem is this navigation graph or this simple navigation only takes us there and allows us to return to our previous destination. But it is not enough to actually it is not enough to return some data. We need to return some data, because when the user enters some information in our other composable, our new item composable, we need to return some of them. So in order to do that, we should consult the documentation and see how it is recommended. But before that, let me show you one more composable. Let's add another composable, like, to give you a better idea of how this works. I create a composable. Actually, I create a root. I name it like profile, and you can see that there are different types of roots that you can create, like deep links even, and content arguments. It can take arguments. Beautiful. It can take argument. It can take arguments. This shows that probably we can use this feature to return some data when we are returning from our new item root. Okay, I create a new composable for profile. Note that I'm doing all of that in the same file, but probably you can create your composables in other files too. Alright, now I'm going to define a new composable called profile and use it here. I make the call to profile, but I need to define it. Composable fun profile, and probably for the beginning it's just going to have some simple structure, like showing a title, actually let's pass in some data to our profile, and we have two ways of passing data, like passing it in as a parameter to our profile composable and as parameter to our root. Actually, arguments, this is going to be a list of arguments, elements, strings. What's the problem? List of named arguments. Okay, it requires name, how can I specify named arguments here? Parameter with this name. Should I specify it here? Name, profile name, string. No, it doesn't work that way. List of named nav arguments. List of. So probably these are going to be These need to be something predefined, not just like that. Okay, for now we skip passing some arguments. Text, and then I create an image, and our image can be created with an image asset. Yeah, we use the image from Android Compose UI graphics image asset. Class image asset, image resource. We use image resource Android Compose UI res image resource. r.drawable.profile. I don't have this image now currently, so I add it. Something like profile. Yeah, this eagle is beautiful. Let's add it. How can I add it here? Actually, I need to go to downloads and copy it and go back to Android Studio for copy. Back to Android Studio. Drawable. Paste it here. Name it like eagle is fine. Eagle. And instead of profile I use eagle. Alright. Since this doesn't receive any arguments, we can make it a preview. Let's see how it looks. Oh, this was supposed to not receive any parameters. Yeah, this is our new route. And I'm curious whether we can add a dash between these the names of our routes to see if they work that way. Composable, new item. Is it used anywhere else? I don't know. Make this fit. Great. New item. New item. After going to the new item, what else happens? Actually, yeah, there's this section that we go to this route. Oh, I forgot to talk about that. Actually, imagine you are pressing a floating action button and then you need to go somewhere with it. You need to pass your nav controller to your fab, and then when you want to do it in your onClick, when you want to go to a new route or destination, you call this navigator.navigate, and then you specify your destination, and it should do it. Let's test this out to see if this works. I like this emulator, although its version is a little bit low, but it supports Jetpack Compose, and this is at least actually the minimum required version of Android for Jetpack Compose. If you select lower APIs, Jetpack Compose will not be supported. And it's a little bit more lightweight than other bulky modern images from Google for running Android. Alright, as this is being built, let's check out the documentation for Compose. Maybe we can find something useful on sending some information to our profile or to our home from the new item, because when the user enters some new item, we need to return it to our home and use it. In order to do that, let's go to d.android.com, Jetpack Compose, documentation, and navigation. Probably, I'm not sure if this link will work. Oh, what happened? No, it didn't work. Navigation didn't work. We go to documentation, and from there we find the section for navigation. Compose navigation. So we know this part. Look, for navigation to work, you add this package, you add this library, Android X Navigation and Navigation Compose, and currently its version is 1.0. And to access to a nav host controller, you call remember nav controller, as I told you, and then you create a nav host to create a collection of navigation routes like this I showed you. Navigate to a composable, I showed you. You pass in the nav controller to your composable, and when you want to go to a route, you simply call nav controller navigate and specify your destination's name. But Navigate with arguments. This is something I haven't done currently yet. Navigation Compose also supports passing arguments between composable navigation. In order to do this, you need to add argument placeholders to your route. So we can add a placeholder similar to how you add arguments to a deep link when using the base navigation library. So we use it this way, and oh, interesting. I think I found it. Yes. Composable, user ID. Okay, where's the value then? By default, our arguments are parsed as strings. You can specify another type by using arguments parameter to set a type, string type. Nav argument. We create a new argument like this. Nav argument. And when we call it, how do we call it? You should extract the nav arguments from the nav backstack entry that is available in the lambda of the composable function. Backstack entry, profile, nav controller, backstack entry arguments, get a string, user ID. To pass the arguments to the destination, you need to add the value to the route in place of the placeholder in the call to navigate. I think I found how this works. So we specify the arguments and how they are passed, their types. Okay. Let's try that. Let's run the app. Actually, there are different ways of running your application. When you have composables, you can run any single composable, individual composables on your device, or with the app configuration that installs your activity, displays your activity on the device. Let's create, actually, let's pass some arguments to profile, and this should be nice. I'm really curious how this works, and it's beautiful. Profile, name. This is going to be easy. Okay. Profile, and then this part, a list of nav arguments, nav argument, the system is freezing a little bit. Nav argument, navigation compose nav argument, and nav argument gets a name and builder. Nav argument okay, name, nav argument, name and type. Yeah, the builder part is actually a composable, is a lambda, and a lambda you can specify its type. Its type is going to be nav type, string type. Okay, this is the definition of our root, and when we want to call it, when we want to go to the new composable, actually we need to add something to go there. We can do that in our top bar. So our top bar requires a navigator, nav host controller, and when do we call this? Do we have yeah, nav controller is available. And when any of these are clicked like this, let's add a new icon for profile, icon vector resource r.drawable. I need a profile picture here, profile icon, so I create a vector asset for profile. Oh, I'm really hungry. What am I doing? Profile. Come on. Beautiful. The application is running and I'm recording at the same time. What is happening? Person, maybe. Yeah, person is fine. This is a vector. I use vectors and person, IC baseline person. Okay. Icon unclick. Do we have an unclick option? No, we don't. So probably I need to wrap it in a clickable. No, actually we do that with a modifier. So modifier dot clickable. Yeah, and then I add unclick. This is not like Flutter when you wrap something in clickable, if I'm not mistaken. Actually, you define a lot of behavior using modifiers, and this in this unclick callback, you tell it to go to navigator, nav controller. Oh my god, sorry about the noise. There's some destruction site near our house, and they have been destroying their house for the last couple of weeks. They are like crazy, starting their work in the morning. Okay, nav controller, and okay, navigate. When you navigate, you're supposed to go to profile and send them my name, okay? Like this. Okay, and the profile is then supposed to, oh my god, no. Come on. Profile is supposed to receive the argument and then display it here. How? Oh, okay. Yeah, it actually passes the received argument to the composable. So it has a backstack entry here. Backstack. Let me close this. Now backstack entry. Come on, don't be crazy. Now backstack entry. And we will extract some information from that. Profile. Does profile require nav controller? I'm not sure about that. But at least it requires some arguments. Yeah, let's give it name, string, argument, and back stack entry. Now backstack entry, get a string, get string, arguments, first arguments, and then nullable get a string. The name is name, the name you are supposed to get, and this cannot be preview because now we are passing some information, some parameter to it, and also this needs to be nullable. To string, okay, to string. Okay, and receive the parameter, receive the argument and display it. Great. Now whatever we pass in will be displayed for us. This time I'm gonna send like John. When I call it from the top bar, I'm going to pass John Doe. Will that work with a space? I hope. So let's refresh our run and see if that works. This is just a one-way navigation to a target destination. If this works, we'll try returning some data because it's even more critical for us to return some data from a destination, like adding a new item to return for us something like the cost name and its value. Installing. Okay, see that it's not very beautiful, so I fix it. This profile, let's add a modifier to center it actually. Modifier padding. 8.depth. Let me check what modifier. Okay, icon modifier already defined to put them modifier, icon modifier. What does it do? Icon modifier Okay, icon modifier. Yes. Since it returns a modifier, it can be chained to our clickable modifier. Beautiful. I apply the changes and it takes forever to refresh the application. Why did I do that? We were just trying to test our new target. Come on. So beautiful. We created a navigation target and we passed in some data, we extracted the data, we passed in the extracted data to our composable, and then we used that data, that received piece of data, to display something, to actually do something. This is beautiful. Oh, next we will probably need to do the same principle, use the same principle to return some data. Please. Beautiful. John Doe. Wow, I love you. John Doe received, then we return. Wow, I can't believe it. And one thing that I had ready when I started this video is going to the route of new item. When pressing this floating action button, you can go here, enter some information. Currently it doesn't update in real time because the simulator is a little bit buggy and slow, but it was working. Like vegetables, $10. Why it doesn't display it? Okay, now that we know how to pass in data to our routes, let's return some data from some routes. Beautiful. Okay, actually I don't know how to do it. Adding optional arguments. Navigation Compose also supports optional navigation arguments. Optional arguments differ from required arguments in two ways. They must be included using query parameter syntax. They must have a default value set or have nullability to true, which implicitly sets the default value to null. This means that all optional arguments must be explicitly added to the composable function as a list. Default value, nav argument, optional arguments. Okay. Profile, user ID. Deep links. Integration with bottom nav bar. I need to know how to manage the back button. Back. Because we need to do something when we return. from this. Why the heck this doesn't write the value that I enter? Do I need to remember something? New item, typical state of, like remember, because when we change the value should be modified because it's mutable. This mutable value is then used to display the value. The fact that it doesn't work is a little bit annoying, and it's probably because of the performance problems of the emulator, not because of some bug in our application. This will make everything clear, this test. But maybe we need to remember, because when we recompose something, the value from before is probably lost, the value that you added here. Therefore, probably we need it. Oh yeah, unfortunately, that is the case. We need to remember its value that is modified. Because when a value changes, when this value changes, a new recomposition occurs, and the new recomposition starts with the value from scratch, unless you remember it. You remember it for the new recompositions. So when a recomposition occurs, it uses the value remembered from before, the value that the user entered, the correct characters, the value that the user entered, and continues from there. Can we do argument passing in the unbackpressed method? Like call that composable to home with some parameters when it happens. I think it is possible, quite possible. Carrots. Yeah, I was right. Why did we buy carrots? I don't know. $5. And then return, and oh, actually we don't need to do it with unbackpressed. We should add some button or something here. It's more beautiful and more user-friendly, because back button is like abandoning something and ignoring it. You know what I'm saying? So in our new item, I add also a button with the value of text, save, on click. What are you talking about? Oh, this button is different from text. OnClick is the required parameter for the button composable, and the text of save, just like that. I don't know why I cannot center these. I used to have a gravity modifier for column, but seems like they removed it, and I need to use some defaulting for them. Input modifier, yeah, let's add some gravity, not gravity, align. Come on, we don't have a line. Modifier, center, gravity, for God's sake. Forget about it. Let's add a modifier, no modifier for button, just let's do our job. Go back to our, oh, we need to pass in navigator here too. Navigator, nav controller. And we use it here, navigator, to navigate to home and return some data. What data? Actually, we are going to return data like cast name, and cast value. So name and value. We return them to our home, and in our home new item, we went to this route from fab, from our floating action button. Okay, and we defined it. Where did we define it? We defined them here, new item. Let's send it nav controller, and when we define it, actually we can specify the parameters to it. New item, yeah, we sent the nav controller, and nav controller then returns. It seems like our home nav controller, our home route, needs optional parameters because it can be null. It's not always receiving values, so yeah, it requires optional parameters. Home, cast name, default value. Yeah, we should specify a default value. So I hate it. Cast name, cast value. Cast value, no. cost name, cost value, oh actually no, we pass in null here because this is a call, and we define it here. Home nav controller composable, and cost name is cost name, and cost value is cost value. This is the list of our parameters, optional arguments, and then the arguments are equal to list of nav argument default value. Great. List of nav argument, the name is cost name, and nav argument, again another nav argument, the name is cost value, nav argument builder, which uses trailing lambda to specify whatever, to do whatever it wants as building things inside its lambda. So default value, it has a default value of null. Great. And here too, default value of null. Null. Okay. So when we return, we should call that way, this that way, home, cost name, cost value. We do that in our save button. Cost name and cost value. If this works, I will be very happy. Very, very happy. Cost name, cost value. Cost name, cost value. So when we return them and they are not null, we display them. How we do that? Okay, we receive them in home, and then nav controller, we pass them here. Cost name, wait. Nav backstack entry arguments. Nav backstack entry. What's happening here? Okay, we should pass in the nav backstack entry to our composable's body. Nav backstack entry. Come on. Nav backstack entry. You're passing it. Okay, this is a little bit tricky. but we pass it to the body of our composable, and then we use that nav backstack entry to send the arguments. What about this? Just send the arguments and go to home, nav backstack entry, and arguments. Back entry dot arguments. Come on. No, we cannot do that. Actually, this needs to be bundle. 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 And this could be null. We receive the bundle containing our data, and let's add somewhere to display that. To display our cost. So we say bundle dot get string cost name, and if it is not null, let and we do that for get a string cost value. If that is passed to us inside the bundle, we use it to do a composable text. Cost name, actually it, and text cost value, again it here, but how did we do it? We passed in the bundle we receive the arguments each time. If the arguments are null, we are using them to display something. Composable, root, and parameter format, and arguments, we define the arguments, nav argument, cost name with its default value, and nav argument, cost value with its default value, and then we use the received arguments and pass them to our home composable. And why do we pass in nav controller? Because we need that inside home. Why? Why do we need it? Do we really need it? Yeah, we need it to pass it to our fab, because our home defines fab. Oh, memory problem again. On to 1,500. Continue. Why? Why crash? Why are you crashing? Come on, I hate you. I hate it. I hate it. Let's see what the problem is. Actually, since the default values are null, we don't need to pass any values for home root when we call it for the default home root. These are optional. Line succeeded? What are you talking about? It didn't succeed at all. Come on. Please show me some errors. What's wrong with you? That's ridiculous. I don't see any errors. This is ridiculous. This is just ridiculous. Why do you stop? I don't understand. I don't understand. Can I choose another emulator? Let's get rid of this one. No, please. this emulator is super slow because it's x86 64, which happen to be painfully slow. Okay, it is running. Installing. Let's do some study while this is being installed. No, forget about the study. Let's see what happens. Why does it take so long? Oh, nullability. True. Oh my. Makes no difference. I should get rid of this emulator too. It's painfully slow, and I should go back to x86 emulator or create one with a higher version of Android, something like 25 or 27. Oh. Painful Android. So I have no idea why this is failing, but it should work. And I'll continue with this tutorial in the next session, and by then I will hopefully find the problem and fix it and show you what the problem was, and we will continue with creating other aspects of our application. But hopefully this gave you a good idea of how navigation with Compose works, and it was pretty easy in comparison with classical navigation that used some navigation graphs in XML files and others. So thanks for watching and take care.